Trump, his demeanor is out there. And there's just no question. You compare him to other presidents we've had, certainly recently, certainly since the war, World War II. He's just really different. He's a real character. He's an enormous, weird, wild character. And some of the stuff he says, I don't like. Some of the way he behaves, I don't like. But he's making sense. Now let's take a look at the opposition. Let's take a look at Bernie Sanders, who doesn't talk like that, who talks kind of in a normal, especially for a New Yorker, talks in a kind of normal way. He's on Seth Meyers, I believe. That's Seth Meyers, right, guys? Yeah, okay. He's talking to Seth Meyers, and Seth is setting him up. Myers is setting him up, and the audience is applauding everything he says. So let's listen to Bernie's speech.
I never use the word left. Yeah. I'm a democratic socialist, so that's the way it is. But the issues that we talk about, is it left to say that in this country we should have a minimum wage that is a living wage? Is it left to say that everybody should have health care as a right, that we should expand Social Security because so many of our people can't make it, elderly people can't make it on $12,000, $13,000 a year? Is it left to say that we have to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and create millions and millions of jobs? Is it left to say that we have to address the crisis of climate change? Or that we have to deal with criminal justice reform or immigration reform? We have to deal with sexism, racism, and homophobia. I don't think those are left issues. I think sometimes the media makes a big deal about it. I think, in fact, on all of those issues and more, sensible gun safety legislation, I think you have the strong majority of the American people saying, yeah, I agree with that.
It's interesting because to some degree, he's probably right. To some degree, if you say to people, should there be a minimum wage? Should we have, free health care? Should we have more Social Security? Something that the Democrats are moving. They didn't run on that, but they're moving to do it because for a couple of reasons, because things are so good and people don't know where that goodness comes from. They think that, we stand on the shoulders of giants and we think that we're flying. We stand in this wealthy country with all the gizmos we have, all the things we can do, and you can call up the culture of the universe, with a keyboard. People who were born after a certain time don't know how that happened. It happened because there was freedom and there was incentive, and guys sat in their garage and said, hey, maybe we can make a computer. Maybe, they dropped out of college. These guys weren't educated by people who thought they were experts. These guys made this stuff themselves and became billionaires. And now, Bill Gates is one of the great philanthropists in the world. You may not like what he's giving to, but he's given his money away. Who wants to stop them? You only want to stop them because you can't imagine the future. Socialism is always about stealing the stuff that people made in the past. You notice you ask occasional cortex, Alexandria occasional cortex, how are you going to pay for that? She says, well, how do we pay for wars? How do we pay for that? She doesn't know. She doesn't know where that money comes from. It came from capitalism. It came from people being free enough to create the incredible wealth. Stop capitalism, you stop the wealth. And you don't know the things that are coming. So Bernie is talking, first of all, he calls himself a Democrat socialist. He's a communist. This is a guy who praised Castro, who praised the Soviet Union, honeymooned in the Soviet Union. You remember that thing? We have that clip about the bread lines. Listen to this.
It's funny. Sometimes American journalists talk about how bad a country is because people are lining up for food. That's a good thing. In other countries, people don't line up for food. The rich get the food and the poor starve to death.
Bread lines are a good thing. That's Bernie Sanders' America. That is Bernie Sanders' future. He doesn't know. He thinks, how can I pillage the wealth of the past to give stuff to everybody, instead of thinking, let's have the risk and the excitement and the freedom of the future, and people will have more stuff than you've ever seen before. It's just because he hasn't seen it before. He can't imagine it. He doesn't think it's there. Socialism is all about the past. Socialism is all about pillaging the past. It used to be socialism was take over the means of production, right? And then spread the wealth, give the wealth to whoever needs it or wants it. That didn't work because when you take over the means of production, the government ruins everything. They can't run stuff. So the companies failed in the Soviet Union. At first it was great. You modernized everything. And then, of course, it all collapsed. But now they don't do that anymore. Now they say, let's have free market societies and then we'll just steal all the money. But that does the same thing. It just takes a little bit longer.